There you are. Please proceed.
Thank you. Kouri Richins feels aggrieved and is thus an intensely ambitious person. She feels aggrieved because growing up, her father was an alcoholic who traded parenting for prison, and her mother a gambler who traded parenting for a casino. Kouri Richins thus worked for her aunt, cleaning the homes of rich people in Park City. She was not beneath those homeowners, but she felt that she was. This fueled in her an intense desire to appear privileged, affluent, and successful. She met Eric Richins. He was a successful business owner. He had money. They had a son, married, and had 2 more sons. Kouri Richins was on her way. But she was unhappy. She wanted to leave Eric Richins, but did not want to leave his money. Their prenuptial agreement meant that if she left him, she would also leave most of his money. So, Kouri Richins took $250,000 in equity out of Eric Richins' home without him knowing it, so that she could start her own business and earn enough money to leave Eric Richins. Kouri Richins is intensely ambitious. First with Eric's money and then other people's money, Kouri Richins carefully curated the facade of a privileged, affluent, successful business owner. Behind the facade, however, Kouri Richins was incompetent. She took tremendous risks. She borrowed money by any means necessary at exorbitant rates. She gambled other people's money and lost. Her business was imploding. All the while, Kouri Richins was more interested in spending time with Josh Grossman than Eric. She dreamed of living in the Midway Mansion with Josh, running it as an event center, farming and raising kids, Eric's kids. But she did not have the money to leave Eric or the money to salvage her business. Kouri Richins is an intensely ambitious person. She is a risk taker. There was a way forward. Eric had to die. As Judge Mrazek just instructed, there are 5 counts. And each count has a series of elements. The state has to prove each count and each element of each count beyond a reasonable doubt. That is our burden. In this closing, we will go count by count, and then within each count, element by element, to show to you how the state has met its burden of proving aggravated murder, attempted aggravated murder, 2 counts of fraud, and forgery. That, again, is the reasonable doubt instruction that Judge Mrazek just read, and you will have back with you in the jury room. Judge Mrazek also read this instruction on what evidence is, and it's usually testimony and exhibits. To reiterate, what the attorneys say is not evidence. And as I asked you in opening, please focus on the evidence. Throughout this presentation, I generally use this format for slides. And so everybody understands where we are, the count, and then the element within the count is at the top in the red banner. We then quote some witness testimony, and we cite it because it's the evidence that matters. So that you'll have the exhibits back with you when you deliberate. And you can reference them. Usually it's a transcript, page, line, number of the testimony. We also publish exhibits. And usually we'll have an exhibit number down here. If there's an exhibit, whatever, 2-5, so you can reference it. Let's begin with the aggravated murder count. The evidence will prove that Kouri Richins was the person who committed the aggravated murder. The evidence will prove that she intentionally or knowingly caused the death of Eric Richins, here by means of administering to him the illicit street drugs that she purchased from Carmen Lauber. She intended to kill him with the illicit street drugs. It doesn't matter what illicit street drugs. We'll get into it more. It doesn't matter if it was the propofol, if it was the fentanyl that actually killed him, if it was oxy or some other illicit street drugs. She bought illicit street drugs to kill Eric Richins. That's what matters. That's murder. These two elements are just murder. Right? If we hide this, that's a murder charge. Here we have an aggravated murder charge, and the state will prove two separate and distinct aggravators. The first is for pecuniary gain. This is a why aggravator. Why did Kouri Richins kill Eric? For money. The second aggravator is a how aggravator. How did she do it? Here, by the administration of any substance, here it happens to be fentanyl, but it could be any substance administered in a lethal amount. Either one of those aggravators are what transforms this case from a murder case to an aggravated murder case. So, first count, first element, was it Kouri Richins? Yes. The state has proved that Kouri Richins had the means, here the fentanyl, the illicit street drugs, the motive, here money, and a fresh start at life, and the opportunity to kill Eric Richins. She was the only other adult in the home at the time. Nobody else killed Eric Richins. Now, intentionally or knowingly caused the death of Eric Richins by administering the illicit street drugs. The state will prove with all kinds of evidence, testimony, exhibits, patterns of her behavior, and what each of us know about humans, that she intended to cause Eric's death. She intended it probably as early as December the 7th, 2021, when she booked a trip for her and Josh Grossman to the Caribbean for April. People don't book that trip. Kouri Richins did not book that trip thinking Eric Richins would be alive in April. She booked it knowing he would not. In December, before Eric died, before Kouri Richins murdered Eric, she told her friend, Becky Lloyd, in many ways it would be better if he were dead. That proves she intended to cause his death. This was the New York Life policy that covered the C&E buy-sell agreement. And on January the 1st, 2022, Kouri Richins changed the life insurance beneficiary on Cody's policy from Eric to her. The evidence proves that Kouri Richins didn't understand that was Cody's policy. And when she figured it out, she went ahead and changed it back because she planned to murder Eric. She did not plan to murder Cody. But she planned to murder. Kouri Richins asked two people, Hayden Jeffs and Carmen Lauber, for the Michael Jackson drug. Kouri Richins was a suburban mother real estate agent. She does not know a lot about the illicit street drug world. But she knows Michael Jackson died from taking drugs. She doesn't know how to order a street drug, but she knows she wants the Michael Jackson stuff. She knows she wants it because it is lethal, it is fatal, it kills. And she wanted lethal, fatal death. Kouri Richins is intensely ambitious. She wanted the perfect life, or at least the appearance of the perfect life. And for her, that meant Josh Grossman. But first, Eric had to go away.
So with these transactions, when Carmen hit you up, what did she tell you?
She just told me that she had a friend that wanted,
Did she ask for blue specifically or fentanyl specifically, or did she ask for oxys, or what did she ask for?
No, I think she might have asked for blue. I can't remember.
But you sold her M30s, right?
Yeah, I told her what she knew what she was buying.
Okay, so it wasn't like she's asking for oxys or something like that, and she got the M30s.
Right, no.
Okay, so she knew that there was fentanyl in those pills.
At Kouri Richins' request, Carmen Lauber purchased illicit street drugs from Robert Crozier. It's those illicit street drugs that killed Eric Richins. It's those illicit street drugs that Kouri used to murder Eric Richins. And while there may be some question as to whether she specifically ordered fentanyl or she knew she was getting fentanyl, the evidence proves she at least knew it. She wanted fatal, lethal, illicit street drugs. And all the testimony from Carmen Lauber, Robert Crozier, digital forensics, we'll get into it, all confirm that Kouri Richins ordered and received illicit street drugs, and that those street drugs contained fentanyl. Illicit street drugs is all that matters. But you heard the testimony that despite confusion in what people were ordering, people were getting fentanyl. The fake M30s looked like the real, the fake M30s looked like the real M30s. Everything on the street in early 2022 had fentanyl. That's how we know that it was this purchase that ended up killing Eric. It's the fentanyl. We can trace the fentanyl. Next slide. The digital forensics corroborate Carmen Lauber's testimony that 5 days before Kouri Richins murdered Eric Richins, Carmen Lauber purchased for Kouri Richins fentanyl from Robert Crozier at the Maverick in Draper. The call detail records show an extraordinary amount of overlapping communication between Carmen Lauber, Kouri Richins, Carmen Lauber, Robert Crozier during that time. We, of course, don't have the communications. Carmen Lauber deleted them because they were evidence of a drug deal. Kouri Richins deleted them because they were evidence of a drug deal and a murder. Robert Crozier said he had lost his phone. But that's an extraordinary number of communications. We know that Kouri Richins, the evidence proves that Kouri Richins used a Moscow Mule and a shot to administer the fentanyl to Eric. She writes it in her orange notebook where she journals what happened the night she murdered Eric. It's a self-serving journal. We'll discuss that down the road. But she wrote Moscow Mule and a lemon drop shot. And that is consistent with all the toxicology. Again, in the notes that investigators recovered from the kitchen cabinet in Kouri Richins' home, she wrote Moscow Mules. Lemon water, vodka, and rum. She left out the main ingredient, which of course is the ginger beer. But there was ginger beer. We know that from the Cock and Bull that OME investigator Cam Sessions found in the trash can in the kitchen. It's interesting that Kouri Richins wrote vodka in parentheses rum. The evidence may show that the Moscow Mule she made that night was ginger beer and fentanyl. The lemon drop shot may be lemon and fentanyl. Notice that here she writes drink in bed. We'll come back to that in a minute. The Cock and Bull, as I mentioned, corroborates at least the Moscow Mule. And then we know the cause of death from the death certificate was fentanyl. The fentanyl and the illicit street drugs that Kouri Richins got from Carmen Lauber, who got from Robert Crozier. We know that Eric ingested the fentanyl from the Moscow Mule, the lemon drop shop, or both. Medical examiner Dr. Pamela Ulmer toxicologist Brianna Peterson, chief medical examiner Dr. Eric Christensen, all testified that the 20,000 nanograms per milliliter of fentanyl, an extraordinary amount, in his stomach indicates oral ingestion. Indeed, Dr. Christensen not only testified to it, he told Kouri Richins that in their phone call that she recorded. Ms. Peterson's testimony, as well as Dr. Christensen, also proves that the fentanyl was illicit. Again, illicit coming from the street, illegal street drug, illicit fentanyl. And it was their testimony, right, was that there was not only fentanyl in the toxicology, but there was norfentanyl, which was a marker of an illicit fentanyl. There's also acetyl fentanyl as well. But it's the norfentanyl that is a marker of illicit fentanyl, which completely tracks with how Kouri Richins got the illicit street drugs. We also know that Kouri Richins intended to kill Eric Richins because the toxicology contained quetiapine.
Your Honor, we may have lost the audio.
Let's reset. My apologies.
Quetiapine is an antipsychotic medication.
Last one. What is quetiapine? Quetiapine?
Quetiapine is an antipsychotic medication. It's called Seroquel.
Okay. I gotcha.
It's a prescription mental health medication that's prescribed for different things.
I gotcha.
The quetiapine in the toxicology for Eric Richins shows that Kouri Richins was involved because she was prescribed quetiapine. Now, this conversation that she recorded with Dr. Christensen is also very insightful. She pretends to not know what quetiapine is. It's her prescription. Of course she knows what it is. She pretends to not know what it is to cover up her involvement in putting the quetiapine inside Eric's body. She feigns the ignorance. She covers up her conduct in murdering Eric Richins in several ways throughout, beginning the night she murdered him, all the way through the walk the dog letter. In the orange notebook, she writes, she jumped out of bed, ran, turned on the lights, grabbed her phone, and called 911. The evidence proves that is not true. The evidence proves that when she returned to their bedroom, Kouri Richins says she was in Ashton's room. There's no evidence of that. But she returned from somewhere to their bedroom, unlocked her phone, put it on speaker. There's no call detail records showing a call at that time. but she may have called on Wi-Fi. Somebody. That would not appear in the call detail records. It would appear on her phone if her phone had not been deleted.
Objection, Your Honor. These are facts that are
Overruled.
not.
Please have a seat.
She then unlocked her phone again at 3:08, 3:10, 3:15, 3:19, 3:19. And then 15 minutes later, she called 911. That is not immediately called 911. Perhaps she was staging the scene during these 15 minutes. We're going to discuss the 911 call in a minute. This is a receiver activation. At 3:22:12, when we're in the 911 call, she's on receiver on her phone. The 911 call operator asks her, "Are you on speakerphone?" She says yes. No. She's on receiver. Before we play this, sorry, we're going to listen to the first part, actually most of the 911 call again. I ask that as you listen to it, you'll hear the first minute. The first minute is not the sound of a wife becoming a widow. To echo her friend Chelsea Barney, the first minute is the sound of a wife becoming a black widow. Listen to how Kouri Richins, on the 911 call, immediately presents, or very soon after the call begins, presents her alibi narrative. Listen to how she tells the 911 dispatcher where she was when Eric died. She is distancing herself. Rather than, he's not breathing, he has no pulse, I have to figure out what to do, I need help. She's saying, hey, look, I was not there, I was in my son's room. That's her alibi. She's distancing herself from the time and the place that she murdered Eric. The 911 call operator asks her to perform CPR. Notice how she distances herself from that. No, I don't know how. No, he's too heavy. No, I can't move him. She is not immediately trying to revive him. We're going to run a clock from the time that the dispatcher asks her if she can start CPR to the time she purportedly starts it. It's 6 minutes. Listen, please, to the portion of the 911 call where the operator instructs Kouri Richins how to remove Eric from the bed. Listen how the dispatcher says, move to the side of the bed. Kouri Richins says she does. Remove the pillows, pull the arm, pull the leg, lift up the sheet, pull him off. If Kouri Richins is following the instructions of the 911 dispatcher, Eric Richins' body is on the floor on the side of the bed, not the foot of the bed where it was found. Listen also to her choice of language. She has dehumanized Eric Richins. When she is talking about removing Eric from the bed and she is protesting and she is saying she cannot, she is not saying, I can't move him. She is saying, I can't move it. Eric is no longer a him to him. She murdered Eric. Eric is an it. Finally, listen to when she says she is performing CPR and the phone is on speaker. The phone's not on speaker. Determine whether she's performing CPR. Okay, Scott.
My husband's not breathing. He's cold. Okay, what's the address? 282 Willow Court. 282 Willow Court? Uh-huh. Okay, what's a good phone number in case we get disconnected? 435 671 1987. Okay, is this going to be in Francis? Okay, tell me exactly what happened. I don't know. I just came in. I was sleeping with my kids. Okay, I can't understand you. I need you to take a deep breath. What's going on? I don't know. I was sleeping in with my kids. I just came in our bed, and I turned over, and he's just cold. He's just cold. Who's cold? My husband. I turned the light on. And he's not breathing? No. He's not breathing? No. I need you to confirm it for me. Is he not breathing? No. Okay, can you do CPR? No, I don't know how. You don't know? I'm going to tell you how to. Are you willing to do CPR? Yeah. Okay. If there's a defibrillator available, send someone to get it now and tell me when you have it. No, there's not. Available? Okay. I'm sending the paramedics to help you now. Stay on the line and I'll tell you exactly what to do next, okay? Okay, are you right by your husband? Yes, he's so pale. His mouth is open. Okay, listen carefully. Are you able to lay him on the floor or the ground? On the ground? I can't. I'm just thinking. I can't touch him. I can't. You can do it. You can do it. You need to calm down, okay? Yellow. We need to help them. I can guide you through CPR. Take a deep breath for me. I'm here with you. He doesn't have a pulse. He doesn't have a pulse? No. There's no pulse. Okay. I'm here with you. I'm here with you. We need to get him help. If you need to put me on speaker, put me on speaker. I'm gonna guide you through CPR, okay? Okay. Tell me when you've done that. Okay, I'm ready. You're ready? Okay, he's on the floor? He's on the bed. Okay, are you able by any chance to move him on the floor? There's spots on it. I don't know what's happening. Okay. I'm here with you. You're not able to move him to the floor? Go out. Don't come in here. Oh my God, my sister. You're not able to move him to the floor? Just listen carefully. We just need to get him on the floor. Don't worry about hurting them. No, he's just too heavy. Is he still on the bed? Yes. Okay, if there's a sheet or a blanket under them, can you loosen it from the mattress? Yes. Okay, stand at the side of the bed closest to them and remove anything under the head. Okay.
Okay? I need you to pull the sheets towards you and slide them off the bed. Don't worry about him falling. We just need to help him now.
Okay.
Tell me when he's on the floor.
I can't move it. It's a dead weight. Like it's just...
You're not. If he has sheets under, pull them to the floor. Don't worry about hurting him.
Can you please send somebody?
Okay, I have the ambulance that's on the way. Okay, there's another way to do this, okay? Grab their feet. Grab his feet.
Okay.
Slide them towards you until they're just off the bed. How old is your husband?
39.
39?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, were you able to put his feet off the bed?
I'm pulling.
Okay, now grab the arm closest to you and pull the rest of the way off the bed. Again, don't worry about the fall. We just need to help them now. I have the ambulance on the way. I just need you to do this, okay, so we can get the help for him.
Okay.
When they arrive, they'll take over. We just need to start CPR now. You are doing great, okay? I just need you to get him on the floor.
Okay, it's on the floor.
You got him on the floor?
Yeah.
Okay, listen carefully, okay? Make sure that there's nothing under his head. Is he laying flat on his back?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, just listen carefully and I'll tell you how to do chest compressions, okay? Place the heel of your hand on the breastbone. This is in the center of the chest, right between the nipples.
Okay.
Put your other hand on top of that hand.
Okay.
Okay? Start pumping the chest hard and fast, at least twice per second, and 2 inches deep.
Okay.
Okay, start counting out loud so I can count with you, okay? We're gonna count 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? Let me know when you're ready.
1,
1, 2, 3, 4. One, 2, 3, 4. Count out loud so I can hear you. I'm counting with you. 1, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. If it's easier for you, am I on speaker?
yes.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Do you know if the front door is open?
No, it's locked.
Are you? I need you to go. Is there anybody else within the home, or is it just you?
It's all my kids.
Okay. Are one of them old enough to go unlock the door?
Yeah, it's unlocked.
It's unlocked now.
Yeah, he's here. He's there.
Okay.
Hit the, yeah. The protesting that was part of the 6-minute delay in Kouri Richins performing CPR. I can't move it. It is just dead weight. Contrast that 911 call with her self-serving text message to her best friend, Chelsea Barney. I tried so fucking hard to save him, his lifeless body on my bedroom floor. I pumped so damn hard, so hard, screaming at him to come back to life, that I needed him. None of that happened. She's covering up her involvement in murdering Eric Richins. Recall the alibi narrative at the beginning of the 911 call. Her letting the 911 operator and everyone know that she was not with Eric when he died. I was somewhere else. I was distant in place and time. When she calls her father-in-law, Eric's dad, Gene Richins, what does she say right at the outset? I was sleeping with Ashley and I came into the room. Gene, I wasn't there. Wasn't me. When Eric's sister Katie arrives, he wasn't breathing. I went to bed. I was in Ashton's room. He was having nightmares. I wasn't there. It was not me. Her alibi. Her cover-up. This is the written form that sheriff's deputies gave Kouri Richins early morning of March 4th to write out what happened. It says, describe in detail what you saw, know, or heard of the incident. Where does she start? Eric and I put the kids to bed around 9 p.m. We had a drink. In Kouri Richins' mind, that's when the incident started. It was the drink, and she knew it because she put the fentanyl in the drink. She didn't start with, I walked into the bedroom at 3 a.m. My husband was not breathing and cold. Describe the incident. The incident for her begins around 9:15 when she has the drink, because she knows that is in fact when the incident began. And then more of her self-serving alibi narrative. It wasn't me, I wasn't there. Before she gets into really what matters. Intentionally or knowingly caused the death of Eric Richins. We know it was intentional because she planned the immediate reaction. When she spoke with Eric's sister, Katie, very shortly after medical examiners rolled Eric Richins' body out of his home for the last time, she told Katie that she was going to plan the she was going to follow through with the purchase of the Midway mansion. She was going to sell the home that she was living in. And she had a plan for running Eric's business, C&E. The morning of Eric's death. She had those plans in place because she knew she was going to murder Eric. She had already thought about not only murdering him, but what I'm doing immediately after murdering him. Her plan with the Midway mansion is consistent with her dream of living there with Josh Grossman, running it as an event center, farming and raising Eric's kids. Her plan to sell the home she lived in proves that she had no idea that home was in a trust. And she couldn't sell it. Her plan on running Eric Richins' half of C&E shows that she did not understand the buy-sell agreement, the life insurance coverage on the buy-sell agreement, or that that life insurance coverage went to the trust, not her. The morning Eric died, she had a plan on how she was spending Eric's money and didn't realize it was trust money. We know that Kouri Richins intended to kill Eric. The evidence proves that she intended to kill Eric, in part based on her conversation with Josh Grossman shortly after killing Eric. Kouri Richins asked Josh if he had ever killed anybody. Killed was her word. Not have you ever lost a loved one. How do you agree? Not have you ever walked in and found a dead body unexpectedly. Not how do you respond to a tragic and horrible accident. It is have you killed? And then she asked how it made him feel. She asked that because she was working through her own feelings on killing and wanted Josh to help her work through those feelings. And never mind that that's a highly selfish question. She's worried about working through her feelings on killing. Never mind Josh Grossman's feelings on having had to have killed in service of his country. It was her feelings that mattered. The walk the dog letter. There's a lot to unpack in this, but right now let's unpack the fact that Kouri Richins says Eric gets pain pills and fentanyl from Mexico. She goes on to talk and says, Eric finally told me and asked if Carmen could get him some pain pills and fentanyl from Mexico. Some refers back to pain pills in Mexico from fentanyl. Sorry, pain pills and fentanyl from Mexico. Kouri Richins knows 4 months after she's been arrested for Eric Richins' murder, a year and a half after she murdered him, she knows that she bought fentanyl, and she has to explain it. And how does she explain it? A year and a half after murdering Eric Richins, she blames it on Eric. Oh, I bought it for Eric. That's the sum of the evidence. Her self-serving statement asking her brother to testify falsely that she brought it from Eric. For Eric. Year and a half after she murdered. Kouri Richins did not tell the 911 dispatcher, hey, I just bought some fentanyl for Eric. She didn't tell the paramedics, he might be dying from the fentanyl I just bought for him. He didn't tell the deputies that responded. He didn't tell Detective Woody. He didn't tell Dr. Ulmer. Didn't tell Christensen. Didn't tell her friends. Didn't tell her family. All the off-ramps she had the opportunity to take to say, hey, I bought the fentanyl for Eric. She doesn't, because it did not happen. She did not concoct this story until a year and a half after she killed him. And it is a story. It's a fake story that she wants her brother to testify to. There are, of course, other inaccuracies. Kouri Richins in the Orange Notebook writes, self-servingly, when the EMT walked up to me and said he didn't make it, we did all we could, I lost it, I immediately ran to the bathroom. This is the video of when the EMT walked up to her.
Family members are going to be coming. His dad. Coming soon. Kids are in that door over there. There's 2 kids that are awake. They're in that door. Yeah, she said to the left. Yeah, I think the one master bedroom. Or the master bedroom. So basically she said she went to bed at 9:30. She slept with the kids because then she goes to bed when she was in bed. It's about around 3 o'clock. Moved into her bed.
We'll stop it there. We could play it for several more minutes. She doesn't immediately or otherwise run to the bathroom and throw up. When people make up stories, they are inconsistent in the retelling. Here, in the Orange Notebook, Kouri Richins says they make the Moscow Mule and the lemon drop shot in the kitchen, and then they go to bed and brush their teeth. Here, they drink it in the bedroom, not the kitchen. Kouri Richins tells her attorney, it's on the right, she tells her attorney that Eric was on the phone when she went into Ashton's bedroom. But Eric Richins' phone activity tells a different story. Kouri Richins repeatedly said that she went into Ashton's bedroom 9:30, 9:45. Eric was off the phone before 9. In the Orange Notebook, Kouri Richins says that Eric was awake when she went into Ashton's room. And that rambling phone call with Bryce Knutson that Chelsea Barney recorded, she suggests that he was asleep because she says when she returned to the bedroom about 3 a.m., Eric was in the exact same position as he was when he fell asleep. That means she was there when he fell asleep, not in Ashton's room. Her story is inconsistent in the details. That proves that much of it is fake. We've read text messages throughout this presentation. We'll continue to publish some more for you to read. None of those text messages were recovered from Kouri Richins' phone. They were recovered from Eric's phone, Chelsea Barney's phone, Josh Grossman's phone, but not Kouri Richins' phone, because they were deleted. That is part of her cover-up. When comparing the contents of the phone with few to no text messages, with the contents of the call detail records, with thousands of text messages. That's how we know they were deleted. When Detective Woody executed the first of the search warrants on April the 13th, 2022, and she informed Kouri Richins that toxicology showed that Eric died of fentanyl poisoning, Detective Woody seized her phone. On her phone that she got to replace the seized phone, on the phone that Kouri Richins got to replace the seized phone, these are the searches. What was Kouri Richins worried about? She was worried about the police recovering all her deleted text messages. Why? They're inculpatory. They would further prove that Kouri Richins bought drugs from Carmen Lauber to then murder Eric Richins. Her phone searches reveal what she was thinking. She's worried about being investigated. She's worried about having to take a lie detector test. She's worried about my office. She's worried about her seized electronics. Prison is on her mind. So is money. She's interested in the life insurance. We don't know precisely when these searches were conducted. It's just not in the digital data. We have the data we have. But we do know that she hasn't been paid out yet on life insurance. And she started getting paid out in June of 2022. And this phone she got in April of 2022. So the inference is that these searches occurred between April and June of 2022. This one's the most insightful. If someone is poisoned, what does it go down on the death certificate as? She didn't search if someone accidentally ODs. She doesn't search if somebody is dead for unknown reasons. She searches if somebody is poisoned, because that is what happened. Now we have to prove that Kouri Richins intended to murder Eric Richins, which means we have to prove that Eric Richins did not commit suicide. Kouri herself says he didn't. No mental health concerns. But the other evidence proves it as well. Eric had every reason to live. The first three of which are Carter, Ashton, and Weston. He was a phenomenal father. He protected his boys. He put his money in trust mostly for the benefit of them, to protect them. He was a protector. He's not leaving his boys. He was also planning for the future. He was a successful business person, and he and Cody had future business plans. He had future plans with his sister. They were planning family vacation to Disneyland. He was planning on buying a cabin in the Uintas with his father for the family. Every shred of evidence in this case proves that Eric did not commit suicide. This wasn't an accidental overdose. Eric Richins did not use drugs. He did not use illicit drugs. Set aside THC gummies. Kouri Richins said no, never to Deputy Wynn and paramedic Offred. These are people that it would have made sense to tell he used illicit drugs to in the moment as paramedic Offred's trying to save Eric's life. But no, she was honest. Nope, never. Same thing with Dr. Ulmer as they're reviewing the toxicology and trying to explain the fentanyl, right? Dr. Ulmer's like, well, there's this fentanyl, really can't explain it. Did he do illicit drugs? No, never. Grossman, she's honest with anybody. She's honest with Grossman. No, Eric did not use drugs. Her best friend, another person she's honest with. Nope. Life insurance company? No. Chief medical examiner? No. And every bit of evidence that came into this case, everyone who testified and knew Eric well, his friends, his family, no, Eric didn't use illicit drugs. Not even prescription drugs. Your Honor, this might be a good place to take a break.
Let's do it.
Recall at the outset of closing when we were looking at the aggravated murder charge. I mentioned the first two elements are murder, and then we get into the two aggravators. So the closing up until now has been the murder charge. That is straight murder, but the state, of course, has charged aggravated murder. So now we'll talk about the two aggravators. The why aggravator, money motive, and the how aggravator, administering any substance in a lethal amount. You'll recall Brooke Carrington's testimony. And when she began her forensic accounting analysis, this drew her attention. The number of overdraft and non-sufficient funds transactions beginning in April. That jumped from 1 in September to 37 in October, beginning in October. That jumped from 1 in September to 37 in October to 77 in December. And Brooke Carrington's analysis was the beginning of the downward financial death spiral. Then Ms. Carrington analyzed the overall debt, and it showed a growing debt picture nearing $8 million in debt when Kouri Richins closed on the Midway Mansion. All the while, she's not paying it off. She's barely sending her creditors any money. And it's never an increasing amount of money. It's flat. The payday loans particularly showed distress to Ms. Carrington. This isn't a traditional mortgage. This isn't even hard money lending. This is, give me money today, I'll give you money when you get paid at an extraordinary, exorbitant interest rate. And when Brooke Carrington saw this, she sees the line here go flat. Payday lenders would no longer lend to Kouri Richins. She was barely paying them off, or barely paying towards them. Kouri Richins lost money flipping homes you heard Brooke Carrington testify about the extraordinary growth and unsustainable level of growth for even sophisticated business people. Kouri Richins is not a sophisticated business person. She didn't even understand fundamental accounting, fundamental tax reporting. Brooke Carrington plotted out the profitability analysis of each of Kouri Richins' home flips. Kouri Richins, when she bought a home, when you total up the home she bought and the loan she took out, she started her projects $2 million in the hole. When she was finished her projects, of money that Brooke could trace to expenses, she could only trace about half of it to expenses because Kouri Richins did not conduct normal accounting. Kouri Richins lost $469,000 on her home flips. But recall that Brooke Carrington testifies there's this other pot out there of $400,000 that I know she lost. I just can't trace it to a particular project. When you add those up, it's nearly $900,000 loss in flipping homes alone. Recall that Brooke Carrington said that does not count the foreclosures. While deliberating, you'll have this, and on the second page, you'll see all the foreclosures. She lost millions more in foreclosures. To include foreclosures on Chelsea Barney's home and the Midway Mansion. Kouri Richins would borrow money by any means necessary. 6 times she submitted inaccurate bank statements to lenders to get money. Those bank statements reflected her business account and balances in C&E's business account. This evidence proves the level of financial desperation that Kouri Richins was in late 2021 and early 2022. The next level of financial desperation is taking $45,000 of your best friend's hard-earned cash tips from waitressing, telling her that you are going to apply that as a down payment to a mortgage on her house where she lives with her partner and her children. And then diverting part of it to pay off Fund 5 merchant, a payday lender. And spending the remainder of it, as Brooke Carrington testified, on expenses to rehabilitate homes and servicing existing debt. Then, telling your friend, your best friend, since middle school, that you applied the money to the loan, here's the deed, sign the deed, and then not filing it. And you will see, if you review that, Brooke Carrington's schedule that had all the property transactions, you'll see that not only did Kouri Richins not file the deed, she took out another loan on the house. That's the loan that was foreclosed on that resulted in Chelsea Barney, her partner, and their children getting evicted and losing their life savings. That is the next level of financial desperation that Kouri Richins was in January 2022. There's the tax liabilities. In the grand scheme of the amount of debt, 150 grand in tax liabilities is de minimis, but they were on her mind. There's an interesting little nugget here. She underreported her expenses in flipping homes to her tax accountant, which resulted in her paying more taxes than she would have. One would think a sophisticated business person would think to limit their tax liability. That's not what interested Kouri Richins. What interested her was the appearance of success in business, the appearance of affluence. And by underreporting her expenses, it looks like she made more money than she did, and she appeared more successful than she was. Because she cared not about being successful, she cared about her facade. She cared about appearing successful. You'll recall that C&E distributed $36,000 to pay some of this $150,000 tax liability, which Kouri Richins then diverted to close on a home. And her tax liability was on her mind 2 days before murdering Eric Richins. She spent over an hour and a half on the phone with the IRS. It was on her mind because if the IRS moved on her tax liabilities, Eric would find out. She had to fix it with the IRS before Eric found out. You're familiar. Kouri Richins needed cash immediately when she murdered Eric. Eric's long-term earning potential, immaterial. She wanted to close on the Midway Mansion. She had no money to refurbish it, to flip it right away, to run it as an event center. But she was going to close on it. She needed money now. Doesn't matter if Eric's going to earn a ton of money down the road. That does not help her now with the Midway Mansion. It does not help her now with servicing her existing debt. She needs money now because she's closing on the Midway Mansion on March the 4th. And when she closes on the Midway Mansion, it's worth $2.9 million. She's borrowing $3.2 million. None of it's her money. She's reaching into other people's pockets to get that money. Not only does she want money to purchase the Midway Mansion, she wants $87,000 for herself. She takes out $87,000 at closing, and how does she spend it? Servicing existing debt and expenses for rehabs. She ultimately closed on the Midway Mansion the day after she murdered Eric. There's an interesting thought here. Did she close on the Midway mansion in spite of murdering Eric? Or did she close on it because she murdered Eric? She hedged. She was supposed to close on the 4th. She didn't want to close until she knew Eric Richins was dead. Because she knew she would have his money. She knew she could do something with the mansion. And that's why when everybody else signed on the 4th, or in advance of the 4th, she signed on the 5th. It's unconscionable that she closed in spite of his death. It's unconscionable that she closed because of his death. This is probably Kouri Richins' true plan for the Midway mansion. And if Eric had not put most of his assets into trust, it could have happened. Recall Brooke Harrington's testimony that after closing on the Midway mansion, Kouri Richins' liabilities were right about $8 million, and she was in the hole $1.6 million. Her net worth was negative $1.6 million when she murdered Eric. And that her business was in financial distress, her financial enterprise was collapsing, had been collapsing, and but for a significant infusion of cash and capital would continue to collapse. That significant infusion of cash and capital was supposed to be Eric Richins' money. You have a fortunate perspective during this case in that you get to observe the defendant. You get to observe Kouri Richins. And you observe her affect with some when some witnesses testify, and you observe her affect change when other witnesses testify. You observed that when we played the 911 call during trial, her affect was flat, no emotion. You also observe that when Brooke Harrington testified about the financial distress of her business, she was exercised. Because that testimony pierced her facade. It pierced her facade of being a successful, privileged, and affluent person. It was a narcissistic injury. She was bothered because the world saw that she is indeed not a success and not affluent. The bulk of Eric Richins' estate was in insurance coverage. Some of it got paid out to the trust, some of it got paid out to Kouri Richins. Kouri Richins knew this, knew that much of his estate was insurance coverage. And different than taking money from Eric's home equity, different than taking money from Eric's bank account, to take Eric's insurance money, Eric has to die. Now for the aggravator of administration of any substance in a lethal amount. Here happened to have been fentanyl. Could have been any part of the illicit street drug that she bought, happened to be fentanyl that she administered in a Moscow Mule and a shot or a shot. But we know that's how she administered it because it was in his belly. We know it was a lethal amount. The death certificate, fentanyl killed him. That's the substance, lethal amount. Can be as small as 3 nanograms per milliliter. And in this case, he had 15. 5 times what can be a lethal amount. That, by the way, is not an accident. That amount of fentanyl shows that Kouri Richins wanted Eric not only dead, but good and dead. Now, count 2, the aggravated murder. The elements are the same as count 1. The only difference is attempt. Attempt requires, as the court instructed, a substantial step. There's plenty of substantial steps from ordering the drugs to making the Moscow Mule. Here, the aggravated murder count proves the attempted aggravated murder count and vice versa. The commonalities between Kouri Richins' conduct are not coincidental. In each instance, she purchased drugs from Carmen Lauber a few days out. In each instance, she spoke with the IRS a few days out. Taxes were on her mind. Eric would find out if the IRS was after them. In each case, she had an immediate financial stressor. We just discussed closing on the Midway Mansion. If you look at Brooke Carrington's materials, she had a note due on Chelsea Barney's house shortly before February the 14th. She had an immediate financial stressor in each instance. In each instance, she administered the substance in a way that Eric would ingest it. On Valentine's Day, it was a sandwich. When she murdered him, it was a drink. Notice that she learned from her mistake. One can season a sandwich with fentanyl. Eric can eat it, tell something's wrong, set the fentanyl-laced sandwich aside. You throw a lemon drop shot back. By the time Eric would notice, the shot was in. It was in his body. Moscow Mule, just to be good and sure. In each case, she leaves Eric alone. She distances herself from the dirty deed. She leaves the bedroom when she murders him. She leaves the county when she attempts to murder him. That's part of her alibi. Not only can she not be present, she has to be distant. So that when she calls 911, she says, I wasn't even there. I was in Utah County. And in each case, she has a delayed response, right? It's the delayed response in calling 911 when she murders him. And it's her delayed response in returning home when she failed to murder him. The element of, again, is it Kouri Richins? Yes. She is the person with the means, the motive, and the opportunity. Nobody else. The means, illicit street drugs in the sandwich. The motive, money, fresh start at life. The opportunity, she left the sandwich in Eric's truck. Intentionally or knowingly caused the death of Eric Richins, right? It's attempt, so attempted to cause the death of Eric Richins. The same reasons. She told Becky Lloyd it would be better if he were dead. She wanted the Michael Jackson stuff, the lethal stuff, the fatal stuff, the stuff that kills. She wanted Eric Richins' life insurance. You only get life insurance when Eric's dead. The commonalities persist. Kouri Richins ordered fentanyl from Carmen Lauber, or ordered something from Carmen Lauber, the Michael Jackson stuff, the fatal stuff. Carmen says, I told her I could get her fentanyl. She said, okay, get the fentanyl. But she ordered illicit street drugs from Carmen Lauber, who got them from Robert Crozier at the Maverick in Draper. Again, the volume of calls during the drug purchase between both Kouri Richins and Carmen Lauber and Robert Crozier and Carmen Lauber. And recall, we don't have the content of the texts because they were deleted from Kouri Richins' phone, deleted from Carmen Lauber's phone, and Crozier lost his phone. The IRS was on her mind. She called him twice, 3 days before attempting to murder Eric Richins. We know she placed the call to the Mirror Lake Diner to order a potentially fatal sandwich. We know that Kouri ordered it. Kouri picked it up in person. It was swiped. Don't know if you can tell that's Kouri Richins' signature, but notice it's one stroke. There's no pen lift. We'll talk more about that in a minute. Kouri Richins then distanced herself. She left the sandwich for Eric, and she drove an hour away to meet up with Josh Grossman on Valentine's Day. There's another commonality between the attempted murder and the murder, of course. They're big days. Losing your husband on Valentine's Day, that garners extra sympathy, extra attention. Losing your husband the same day you're supposed to close on the biggest purchase of your life, that garners extra attention. The type of attention that Kouri Richins relishes in. You heard Kouri Richins testify how Eric was a cowboy when it came to injury or illness. He worked through it all. He cowboyed up. Cowboys don't go to the hospital unless they're near death. They don't even think about going to the hospital unless they're near death. And at 11:33, Eric's thinking about going to the hospital. And then all the activity, the physical activity on his phone ceases. For 87 minutes in the middle of a busy workday. Shortly after activity resumes in Eric's phone, he calls his best friend and business partner Kouri Wright. Recall Cody said he could hear the fear in Eric's voice, a fear he'd only heard twice before, both times associated with death. A fear he heard when Eric told him his mother had passed away, and a fear he heard when someone who struck Eric's truck in an automobile accident, and Eric thought that person might have passed away. He then spoke with his hunting buddy and close friend, Josh Kays. You know and learn a lot about somebody when you hunt together and travel together. And Josh Kays said, Eric sounded somber and serious. Josh asked Eric perhaps the two most pertinent questions: if he was going to the hospital, and what was he going to do about it? Let's turn to alley staking, singular, not plural. Clearly close with Kouri. Friends since middle school. You observed the banter when Ms. Staking was testifying, the banter between her and Kouri Richins. It was friendly. She's still friendly with her. And Allie Staking testified about how a week or two after Valentine's Day, when Kouri Richins attempted to murder Eric, when I questioned her, she said, well, Eric jokingly, kind of jokingly, maybe jokingly, said that Kouri Richins tried to poison me. Perhaps joking. But Kouri Richins' reaction is what was important here. Kouri said no. She got defensive. That is not what happened. It was like an allergic reaction or something. It wasn't at all dramatic. She is covering up her poisoning him. Then when defense counsel questioned Ms. Staking, Ms. Staking kind of backed off the jokiness of Eric's comment and attributed the jokiness to everyone else. Allie Staking said, or defense counsel questioned, what did he tell you? That he believed Kouri had tried to poison him. Maybe it was one of those joking things like, I'm sending a message to Kouri Richins. I know what you tried to do. I'm joking about it, but I'm going to let you know. Maybe he was serious. Either way, comes back to Kouri Richins trying to poison him on Valentine's Day. Kouri Richins repeatedly tries to cover up that she tried to murder Eric on Valentine's Day. She says she was home with him. She tells her best friend, Chelsea Barney, I was home with him. She was not. She was with Josh Grossman. She did not come home until after 6:30 p.m. She was saying he never broke out in hives or used an EpiPen. That means he broke out in hives and used an EpiPen. When she spoke with her mother on August the 22nd, when she says she didn't put a love note and the sandwich in the front seat of his truck, she put a love note and the sandwich in the front seat of his truck. She is trying to distance herself. She is trying to cover up. She is trying to deflect. When Eric said he was thinking about heading to the hospital, what did she say? Take a nap, call me when you're up. She's saying that thinking he will take a nap and not wake up. When he does, Eric texts Kouri. He's asking if she's home because he had just said, I'm going to hospital. Then he had stopped communicating, or he said, I'm thinking about going to the hospital, and then stopped communicating for nearly 2 hours. He's figuring she was coming home to assist him, but she wasn't. She's in Provo waiting for a cabinet installer guy. Maybe. She says then she's going to head home in 20 minutes. Nearly 2 hours later, question mark, where are you? You were heading home 20 minutes ago. She responds, what? Thanks for answering. Did you call? You didn't call. She thinks he's heading home. She's not. She's trying to figure out what to do. She's trying to figure out what to do because Eric survived. She had not planned on that. She is delaying to make her plan. And then at 6:34, Eric texts, we're headed in there. Food is on the front seat of his truck. The same place she left the poisoned sandwich with the love note. Eric Richins is telling her, I know what you did. That is the attempted aggravated murder. That is the attempted murder. Now, of course, we have the two aggravators. They're the same. Same as with the aggravated murder. The money motive, same. Similar financial distress, same. There's also the first start at life motive, right? That hasn't changed a bit. Josh Grossman, it's Josh Grossman on Valentine's Day, and he's Josh Grossman on March the 4th. Money motive the same, fresh start at life motive the same. Now the second aggravator, administration of any substance in a lethal amount. Recall Dr. Eric Christensen's testimony that hives, EpiPen, all consistent with an opiate-like or an opiate allergic-like response, a pseudo-allergic response. Hives, EpiPen, along with zero activity, shows that Kouri Richins attempted to administer the illicit street drugs that she bought 3 days earlier from Carmen Lauber in a lethal amount. She just failed. Next slide. Okay, the insurance fraud. There are two insurance frauds. Let me distinguish them, please, for you. The first one is a scheme charge, a fraud scheme. The second one is a fraud claim charge. Count 3, the scheme charge relates to the $100,000 True Stage policy. We're going to put it up in a minute. The fraud claim charge relates to the $250,000 True Stage policy. The forgery, which we will get to, is a forgery related to count 3, the scheme charge. Let me unpack them now. Okay. Different than the aggravated murder and attempted aggravated murder, I'll address all elements of the insurance fraud scheme kind of at once because they all jump out of this single page. And the scheme is quite simple. Kouri Richins wanted to murder Eric Richins, thus took out an insurance policy on his life to get money for murdering Eric Richins. Then she murdered Eric Richins, and then she submitted a claim to get the money. That is the scheme. And we know it was Kouri Richins because everything on this application for this $100,000 true stage insurance policy returns to Kouri Richins. Kouri Richins received the application because she was a member of PEDFed. The application was addressed to her at her work address, so she would have been the one to receive it. If there was any questions about it, any further follow-up mailings about it, they would go to her and not to Eric. This applicant information is all her, but the partner information is all her as well. Her work address, no email address where they could contact Eric. We'll get to the Social Security number in a minute. The primary phone, that's not Eric's phone. You'll see that Eric's phone is 801-792-9317. And when you look at this closely during deliberations, you'll see that was originally a 7 that she later marked up to read like an 8. She initially wrote his correct phone number, then did not want anyone from True States to call him, so she changed the 7 to an 8. So that Eric would never know that this policy existed. After Kouri Richins took $250,000 out of Eric's home equity, he put all of his insurance that he knew about into the trust. If Eric had filled this out, the beneficiary would have been the trust, not Kouri Richins. Then we'll get to the signature. That's the fraud count 5 as well. It plays into this. We'll talk to it during count 3. But it's also the freestanding charge in count 5. Let's go to the next page. The Social Security number was blacked out for privacy reasons on the application we just reviewed, but you'll recall Ann Coates testifying that the last 6 digits were transposed. We all know our own Social Security numbers. We often get a little bit confused on our spouses. Eric did not sign the application. Matt Throckmorton, the handwriting expert. Eric did not sign it. It was probably a simulated forgery. Recall his testimony that Eric Richins has pen lifts in his signature. The forged one didn't have any pen lifts. You'll see Kouri Richins' signature throughout this case. No pen lifts. Then, Kouri Richins filed a claim for this $100,000 true stage policy. It's actually the same claim for both policies. And she said she really does not know where her husband, Eric, got the fentanyl from. Of course she knows. She ordered it from Carmen Lauber. That is the fraud scheme. Plan to kill Eric, fill out life insurance so I can get money for killing Eric, kill Eric, and then claim the money. Now for the insurance fraud claim count 4. This is the true stage $250,000 policy. This is the claimant's statement filled out. Kouri Richins beneficiary, Kouri Richins email, Kouri Richins address. Everything about this claim says Kouri Richins is submitting this claim. And then, like before, the fraud here, the falseness of it is she says she doesn't know where the fentanyl came from, when in fact she ordered illicit street drugs from Carmen Lauber. And indeed, later in the Walk the Dog letter, admits to asking Carmen for fentanyl. Finally, count 5, the forgery charge. We've discussed most of the forgery when we discussed count 3. But there's this without the authority to do so element. It's not a forgery if Eric gave Kouri Richins permission. The state has to prove that Kouri Richins did not sign Eric's name with permission, with authority. All of the evidence in this case proves that Kouri Richins does not ask for permission, she takes. She took with the home equity loan. She took other people's money. She's a taker, not an asker. Finally, like I mentioned earlier, Eric Richins, the evidence proves, would have put the trust as the beneficiary, not Kouri Richins. If he had given permission, it would have been permission to make the trust the beneficiary. That's the forgery charge. Let's please now turn to Kouri's motive for a fresh start at life. You heard the instructions. The state does not have to prove any motive except for the pecuniary gain motive because it's an aggravator. But motive explains why Kouri murdered Eric Richins, why she attempted to murder him. Motive explains a lot here. These texts at this point are familiar. The day after Kouri Richins speaks with Becky Lloyd and tells Becky Lloyd she would be better if Eric were dead, she texts Josh Grossman that she's in love with him, a man not her husband. If I was divorced right now and asked you to marry me, would you? That's the day after the attempted murder. If he could just go away and you could just be here, life would be so perfect. We're familiar with this text. We've read it already today. I ask you to read it again. This time, replace the word divorce with the word murder. This graphic shows a juxtaposition between Josh and Eric that is insightful to what Kouri thinks about each of them. In each instance, she is texting, well, she is kind of simultaneously texting. These are laid out chronologically. She is simultaneously texting with both Josh and Eric about closing on the Midway mansion. And she is so excited texting with Josh. I can't believe it. I want to celebrate with you. Love you, love you, love you. Thank you for always being my support, shoulder, and rock. I need you all the time. Some things I could never do without your encouragement. You have no idea how much I appreciate you. Eric tries to reach out. You want a shot? Can't. Sorry, busy. Then right back to Josh Grossman. To me, you're worth millions a year. I'm honored to be your best friend, your lover, your go-to. Life is going to be different, I promise. You're one hell of a patient person. I hate your hard days. I wish I could be there to turn them around for you. Can I try Friday? Give me a few days. Hang in there until then, please. By Friday, of course, Kouri Richins was dead. Kouri had murdered him. She's right. Life's going to be different. She promised him. It was. Then, 16 days after Kouri Richins murdered Eric, are we there yet? And then 1 month later, Kouri's ready for Josh to be her husband. Josh Grossman loved Kouri Richins. He believed that she loved him. Not sure that's true. You saw him testify. He was gutted. As a grown-ass man, gutted. You also observed Kouri Richins' affect when he testified. Flat. The evidence proves that Kouri Richins attempted to murder Kouri Richins, and that she committed 2 counts of insurance fraud and forgery. The evidence does not support any other rational explanation. The state, since its opening statement, has stressed the requirement to consider the evidence that has been admitted and not what the attorneys say. What the attorneys say, insinuate, speculate, is not evidence. Please let me show you why the state has stressed this. In the defense's opening statement, counsel said that the evidence will show that Kouri Richins had a 1/2 interest in the Willow Court home. There is no evidence of that, and indeed contrary evidence. Defense counsel said that the evidence would show that Eric was always checking Kouri's phone. There's no evidence of that. Defense counsel said that the evidence will show Eric and Kouri Richins went to marriage counseling. There's no evidence of that. Defense counsel said that the evidence will show in the few weeks before Eric died, his closest friend thought that he and Kouri Richins were the happiest together that the friend had ever seen. There's no evidence of that. Defense counsel said that the night Eric died, he and Kouri Richins had their drinks and set their cups in the sink. There's no evidence of that. Defense counsel said that the evidence will show that the cups were sitting in the sink and the nanny put them in the dishwasher the next morning and they still had fluid in them. There's no evidence of that. Defense counsel said that Eric talked to a friend named Scott Wagner at 10 p.m. the night he died. There's no evidence of that, and indeed, contrary evidence. Defense counsel said that the evidence would show Eric unlocked Kouri Richins' phone at 10:30 p.m. the night he died, and this is the last thing that he did. There's no evidence of that. Defense counsel said that the evidence would show investigators interviewed Kouri over and over and over again about what happened the night that Eric died. There's no evidence of that. Defense counsel said that the evidence would show that law enforcement secretly recorded Kouri Richins' phone conversations for over a year after Eric died. There's no evidence of that, and indeed, contrary evidence. Defense counsel said that you will hear Kouri Richins telling her family that she purchased pain pills for Eric at his request. You did not hear that, although she did write it in the Walk the Dog letter 4 months after she was arrested. In listening to defense counsel's closing argument, please only consider the evidence that has been admitted.